Hello and welcome by the 45th Tour of the Alps, just more than 2 months, and it's going to be April 17 when the team presentation in Claes will officially open this 2022 edition of the Tour of the Alps, the Euro-regional cycling race in 5 stages running through Trentino, Südtirol, Alto Adige and Tyrol and distributed all over the world by PMG Sport. Today we are here in the lovely Lienz to discover a very important moment in the build-up to the race. Because today we are going to see who the competing teams of this 2022 edition will be. And since this is such an important moment and such an anticipated moment by all the fans from all over the world, we are delighted to provide this magazine to you in live streaming and also to provide you Italian, English and German subtitles throughout the whole length of the magazine. So if you're following us from anywhere in the world, just don't forget to activate the most suitable subtitles to follow us in a better way. So now we are here. Hello, Franz.
Hello.
Franz Teuerl is the president of the Osttirol's Tourist Board. Here, Franz, we have a long history with cycling in Linz, a long-time relationship with the Giro del Trentino before and now the Tour of the Alps. Here in Osttirol, we are going to live the final 2 days of this edition. It's going to be a great show and certainly a great welcoming by this area.
Yes, we are very glad and proud to have 2 stages of Tour of the Alps again in Lienz. Really, we have a long history about cycling in East Tyrol. And when I remember 25 years ago in this main square, we had the first start of Giro del Trentino. In the meantime, we have 10 times Giro del Trentino and now Tour of the Alps as guests in our area. And about this, we are very, very glad. It's a great opportunity for us to make friendships over border and to work together with the other regions in Tyrol. And about this, we are hopeful to have again more cooperation with Tirol Europea.
Franz, before getting to Linz, we are going to have a charming uphill finish in Karls am Großglockner, the highest mountain in Austria. We are not going to get to the top, but certainly a very interesting finale.
In this case, it's a great opportunity for us to show the highest mountain of Austria together with spectacular cycling. And about this, we are very glad. It's a wonderful area in the National Park of East Tyrol, and therefore we are looking forward to this great experience.
Thank you, Franz. It's going to be an exciting finale, and certainly the Tour of the Alps now and before the Giro del Trentino, we have always felt at home here. Here we are in Outplatz. Here we are going to have the starting stage of stage 5, the one that a few hundred meters from here will crown the winner of the 2022 Tour of the Alps. So after the starting Claes, we are going to be in Primiero San Martino di Castrozza, Lana, Niederdorf, Villabassa, Karls am Großglockner and finally Lienz. Plenty of great locations for this 2022 Tour of the Alps. Let's have a look at the clip and see what's going on for us and for the riders in April. (727.9 kilometers, nearly 14,000 meters of elevation gain. That's the menu of the 2022 Tour of the Alps. That's going to be one for climbers, one from strong riders like we grown up knowing from the old days of the Giro del Trentino and until the new days, the new era of the Tour of the Alps. And with that same mist that we have learned to characterize the new project since 2017. 5 relatively short stages, very intense, very high in elevation gain without reaching the highest altitudes of the mountain in order to avoid any kind of issues when it comes to bad weather, like it can still happen in April when it comes to the Alps, after all. So that's the myths that the riders have gone to appreciate and they have been showing to love over the years. And that's the same feeling that it's also shared by the stakeholders and of course the fans who keep them glued to the TV screens during the live coverage, 2 hours of live coverage a day for the Tour of the Alps, and obviously coming to the stage venues and to the roads to enjoy the feats of the greatest champions in cycling. Let's take a step back to the 5 stages we introduced in Milan, to the course of this 2022 Tour of the Alps. So, in case you missed it, here's for you. The Tour of the Alps is arguably the shiniest and the most visionary project of the Euregio that unites Trentino, Alto Adige, Südtirol, and Tyrol. A collaboration whose outcomes were so important, so relevant, that they paved the collaboration in new fields through a new JECT, a group of European collaboration named Euregio Connect. But now let's go to Trentino, to Alto Adige, Südtirol, and to Tyrol to speak to the representative of the tourist board that made this Tour of the Alps Alliance. We start with Trentino, where the race will get off on April 18. Let's start with Maurizio Rossini, the CEO of Trentino Marketing. Ciao Maurizio.
Buongiorno e un caro saluto da parte mia e di tutto il Trentino.
Allora Maurizio, sappiamo bene come il Tour of the Alps sia tradizionalmente l'evento che apre la stagione estiva in Trentino, un momento di apertura molto importante e molto significativo, oltre che di importanza mediatica notevole. Ecco, quanto è importante per il Trentino avere questa apertura nel segno della grande visibilità e dei grandi campioni?
Il Tour of the Alps è uno dei grandi appuntamenti sportivi di questa terra, non solo del Trentino ma anche dell'Alto Adige e del Tirolo. Grazie davvero ad un gioco di squadra di queste tre bellissime regioni siamo riusciti a posizionare questo evento nel novero dei più importanti eventi del ciclismo internazionale. Ed è un appuntamento che si colloca anche dal punto di vista temporale in un momento strategico, la partenza della stagione estiva. Portare queste bellissime immagini nel mondo quindi diventa una promozione davvero importante. Quest'anno le tappe saranno due tappe molto suggestive in questo territorio. Partiamo dalla Val di Non, percorriamo la Val Sugana, arriviamo in Primiero. Quindi tre vallate molto molto belle che sono sicuro coglieranno la curiosità di moltissimi telespettatori. La seconda tappa invece partenza dal Primiero e poi percorriamo la Val di Fiemme. Quindi davvero un'edizione che credo potrà essere di grande successo.
Sono d'accordo Maurizio, non vediamo l'ora davvero di essere in Trentino a partire dal 17 con l'inaugurazione e poi con le prime due tappe. Grazie Maurizio e ci vediamo al Tour of the Alps.
Grazie a tutti e ancora un saluto affettuoso da parte mia e di tutto il Trentino.
Thank you, Maurizio. Now let's move to the north. Let's move to Alto Adige Südtirol, where two starts and two finishes of this 2022 Tour of the Alps will be held. So we go to Andreas Schürchenthaler, the head of PR and events at IDM Südtirol. Ciao Andreas.
Buonasera a tutti, einen wunderschönen guten Abend, good evening.
So the Tour of the Alps has become so successful, such an important event from every point of view, from a sports point of view, but also from a communication point of view, and gives the three lands a great opportunity to be visible all over the world on the TV screen. How important is that to your lands, particularly at a juncture like this?
The Tour of the Alps is a huge opportunity for three small regions in the heart of the Alps, in the middle of Europe. The whole world of road cycling is watching us. Spectacular races, beautiful landscapes, and the elite of cycling at their first rehearsal for the coming season. For us, the Tour of the Alps is an example of how well cross-border cooperation can work, how easy it can be to cross borders, and how convincing sport and enthusiasm can be. In times that are actually not easy, Tour of the Alps is an example of how, despite adverse circumstances, you can set an example that know-how and team spirit can move mountains.
And we certainly wish to realize this ambition. So thanks Andreas, and can't wait to meet you in Alto Adige Südtirol.
Thank you to all you, and see you soon in spring in South Tyrol, Trentino and Tirol. Goodbye.
Bye Andreas, and thank you. And now we move to the final land, the land that is hosting us today, and that above all will stage the grand finale of this 2022 Tour of the Alps. So let's welcome the Managing Director of Tirol Färbung, Mr. Florian Fleps. Ciao Florian.
A very good day to you all. Please allow me to welcome you on behalf of Tirol Werbung, the Tyrolean Tourism Board.
So the experience of the Tour of the Alps has possibly become even more significant at this time of the pandemic, as it became, let's say, a benchmark, and that's an example of how collaboration, but above all, determination, professionalism, courage, can help lands and people to react from such a difficult juncture. Do you agree about that?
The Tour of the Alps is a collaborative transborder lighthouse project on tourism and sport that is tangible in the community. Since 2017, the three regions of South Tyrol, Trentino and Tyrol have been working together successfully with their tourism organizations, thus continuing the success story of Giro del Trentino. Especially in today's world, it is evident that transborder collaboration is crucial for a prosperous future. We want to create an awareness that can be better achieved through cooperation than competitiveness. This year will mark the 5th year of the Tour of the Alps. As you all know, last year's event was not an easy one due to the pandemic. However, the regions and their tourism organizations, Trentino Marketing, IDM Südtirol and Tirol Werbung, managed to organize the race successfully with courage, professionalism and determination. At the same time, this was the starting signal for a summer season that gave us a welcome breather from the pandemic, with open borders and plenty of freedom. We hope that this year's Tour of the Alps can also serve as a starting signal for a similar summer. Of one thing you can be certain: sport embodies a strong sign of solidarity as one of the world's most beautiful pastimes.
Thank you, Florian. Thanks for this very deep thinking, and we are already looking forward to living those exciting days in Tyrol in April.
May I just say thank you, and that we're already looking forward to a thrilling Tour of the Alps 2022.
Thank you, Florian. We are getting closer to the most anticipated moment, to the moment in which we will unveil the competing team of this 2022 Tour of the Alps. But before we do that, we would like to add another valuable feedback about this year's edition. We asked not just anybody, but a former talented rider that continued after his career and became a very talented presenter on the Eurosport cameras and is now starting a new adventure as part of the technical team at Bora Hansgrohe. We have asked Bernhard Eisel, a former rider from Austria, to ride with us the 5 stages of the 2022 Tour of the Alps and tell his impressions in 5 video recognitions that are being published on the Tour of the Alps channels over these weeks. And we also asked Bernie in an interview to wrap up his feelings towards this edition and tell us what we should expect from April 18 to 22nd. So let's listen to Bernie's words with attention.
The course of those 5 days, Tour of the Alps 2022, is an amazing scenery. It's hard racing, of course. There's a lot of climbing. There's changing and amazing sceneries, starting from Trentino in Claes, and you pass the Melinda apple orchards, and also going through all those valleys up the high mountains, Basserolle, nearly touching 2,000 meters of climbing. It is tough, but even myself, not riding too much at the moment, I really enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of this year's course. Riding all those 719 kilometers up and down and through some great valleys. I think what struck me the most and what took my attention is just those sceneries and the landscape. And it is not changing much, but still it's changing. It's in the little details, and for me, it was probably one of the most enjoyable rides I did, and it's probably because also I didn't have race numbers on my back. Definitely followed the progress of Tour of the Alps, coming from Giro del Trentino as a preparation race for the Giro d'Italia, but now you can see the Tour of the Alps as a standalone race, what attracts a lot of riders, and it's still a little preparation for the Giro d'Italia, of course, but at the same time, if you win the Tour of the Alps, it stands alone because it is a big race, and it's also made because you do proper mountains and you come through the known valleys and everything. So it is, when you cross the finish line, you know what you have achieved, what you have done. And this is also, I think, more and definitely well known by the media now. To be honest, I'm a really big fan of having shorter stages and also not going to the high altitude, always risking the stage gets cancelled, or you have to have a plan B and you stay in the valley. So I'm a really big fan not touching the real high mountains, but also keeping the stages short and also the race open, because the race, also last year's, it isn't decided on day one or day two. It stays open because there's always opportunities to fight for this jersey, to take it off your opponent's shoulders. And I think that's what makes it so interesting to watch, but also enjoyable for the riders, because it's not over till you cross the finish line on the last day. Oh, you definitely have to be a climber to win this Tour of the Alps, this is for sure. But same time, I've seen it's not the high mountains. Passarola is the highest point, just below 2,000 meters of climbing, and the rest is shorter climbs. You can find a nice rhythm, but then the second part of the race will actually attract also the other riders, where it gets a little bit steeper, but the climbs get shorter. So this is, I think, it opens up the race for so many different style of riders and also racing. And this, I think, will be the right ingredient, or this will be the right ingredients to make it a spectacular race. I'm Bernie Eisel and I live uphill.
Bernie lives uphill, and so we do. But now it's the time. It's the moment that we reveal the names of the competing teams of this edition, and that's with pride that we can already say that the World Tour teams of this 2022 Tour of the Alps will be in double digits once again. So that's a promise of great show, great riding, and great champions, as we have grown accustomed to be at the Tour of the Alps. We start with AG2R Citroën, the French team, a very regular team, I would say, at the Tour of the Alps, since they have taken part to the race every year since several years. And they have several high competing riders, several interesting figures, including also an Austrian rider from this year, the youngster Felix Gall. Astana Kazakhstan is another very regular team at the Tour of the Alps, and also an important one. They won plenty of stages, and also they have leading figures that are part of the history of this event. We are talking, of course, about Vincenzo Nibali, the winner of the old Giro del Trentino twice, and certainly a prominent figure also in recent years at the Tour of the Alps, but also Miguel Angel Lopez, the Colombian who won the second stage of the Tour of the Alps in 2018 at the Alpe di Pampeago, and who promises to be the leader of the team at the Giro d'Italia, and arguably could be and could do so also at the Tour of the Alps. Bahrain Victorious was obviously one of the standout teams in 2021 through the overall season, and certainly did their part again at the Tour of the Alps. Particularly we recall Pello Bilbao winning the fourth stage with a finish in Pieve di Bono after the tricky Boni Prati descent and ending on the second step of the podium. And the Spaniard has already announced that his plan is to be back to the Oreggio in April in order to try and improve this standout positioning. And watch out also for Austrian Hermann Pernsteiner to join him in the Oreggio as he did in previous years and try to stay and to shine among the stars. Bora Hansgrohe, of course, the German team has an edge, no doubt. They have a technical of them who has already recognized the courses in Bernie Eisel, but of course that won't be the feat that wins the race for them. They also have the talents and the riders. Their leader for the race is expected to be Wilco Kelderman, the Dutchman who will also be one of their leaders for the Giro d'Italia, but it might not be alone. There might be other talents, and one of them might be Belgian prospect, Belgian neopro, Tjani Uijtenbrooks, who is also one of the most exciting riders passing in the pro ranks in this 2022 season. Team DSM, the German team, is back from a second straight season. It's the team of Romain Bardet and Chris Hamilton. For DSM, as for many other teams, it's still too early to say who actually might be part of the race lineup in April. As you very well know, the situation with the calendar and also with the overall juncture in the world is still very fluid. So it's maybe early for teams to take final decisions in terms of what their riders and the leaders for the spring might be. But for, of course, we should expect DSM to be in the thick of the action, and we are looking forward to see who their go-to rider for the Just Grand Tour of the season will be. EF Education EasyPost is another team with some history at the Tour of the Alps, and they certainly have a chance to compete on the mountains with several riders in their lineups, from Ucarty to Esteban Chavez to Marc Paduna and of course Rigoberto Urán. We don't know their plans yet. What we know is that they are going to be fun to watch when it comes to the sparkles on the mountains. Groupama FDJ is a long-time fan of our race, as their race leader Thibaut Pinot, who was the overall winner of the Tour of the Alps in 2018, and certainly one of the greatest fans of the Tour of the Alps possibly in the world. And he might be joined in the team ranks also by Attila Wolter, the Hungarian who won the pink jersey at the 2021 Giro d'Italia, and who will be very motivated to build up to the pink race this year, as the race will be starting in his own Hungary. Ineos Grenadiers, of course, the most successful team in the recent history of the Giro del Trentino and the Tour of the Alps. They won the GC so many times, last in time 2019 with Pavel Sivakov, and they certainly will have chances to do it again. They haven't announced yet who the leader in the Regio might be, but since they are going to start the Giro, as they expect to do, with Richard Carapaz, Tom Pidcock, Theo Gegenhardt, and the former Giro del Trentino winner Richie Porte, we have all the greatest expectations to see stars lining up for Team Ineos in the Euro region. Israel Premier Tech. It's the team of Chris Froome, another big fan of our race based on his recent participation in the last 3 editions, but also boasting the likes of Alessandro De Marchi, the best climber of the 2021 Tour of the Alps. So, who knows, they both might be on their way back to class in April. Movistar, the Spanish team, is poised to make their debut at this event in its whole history. And that's a very interesting first, as the leader should be the Colombian Ivan Ramiro Sosa, who already managed to wear the leader's jersey at the Tour of the Alps in 2018 before falling out due to an unfortunate crash. Sosa is expected to lead Movistar also at the Giro d'Italia, so we are looking forward to seeing what he can do on the Euregio scenario. Joining the race are also plenty pro-continental teams, interesting pro-continental teams like the Italian licensed Bargnani CSF Faizané, Drone Hopper Androni Giocattoli, and Eolo Cometa. 3 teams will come from Spain in Car Rural Seguros RGA, Euskaltel Euskadi, and Kern Pharma, plus Russia's Gazprom Rusvelo and Norway's Uno X team. That was one of the pleasant surprises early in last year Tour of the Alps before they were forced off due to a COVID case in their team. But they will certainly be back looking to keep on the good feeling they had at first glance with the Tour of the Alps. And rounding out the list is Continental Team Tyrol Cycling Team, which is the expression, of course, of this land, the expression of this very territory and the cradle of several World Tour talents in recent years. Once again, it is easy to get excited with the perspective of seeing all these teams and riders compete on the roads of this Tour of the Alps. And I assume the general manager of the Tour of the Alps, Maurizio Evangelista, will be happy with the steps that the race has been taking in recent years. Maurizio, so many great feedbacks from teams and riders are possibly the greatest testament to the great work and effort that has been done over the years since the new project has come into fruition. So what are the main novelties of this 2022 edition, and what might be the next ambitions and expectations for the Tour of the Alps?
Tour of the Alps found its success on a new format, technical format that was very successful. I believe that the most of the appreciation that the race got was due to this kind of short but intense stages that makes the race very spectacular. And we intend to continue on this way, on this path. And of course, we know that even this year we have an impressive field in the action. And let's say that for this year, especially, we have a wish, that is to close to the main champions, maybe to assist to some new talent coming up, maybe winning, because we are passing through an era in cycling, in professional cycling, in which many new champions coming up, and we really expect and hope this year this could happen at the Tour of the Alps as well.
At the Tour of the Alps, there are also old sponsors staying with enthusiasm and also new partners coming up.
Yeah, this year it is very significant that we move from the Val di Non area, that is the land of apples. Our main sponsor, Melinda, will be extremely happy with this, but also we have other sponsors like Cassa Centrale Banca, like Vittoria Gomme, Suzuki, that continue their relationship with us. Besides some new one, I can mention Ale, that is the new official jersey supplier and official sponsor.
And also among the novelties, there's also something that goes uphill, like we do, because the Live Uphill project, with the Live Uphill project, the Tour of the Alps wishes to support the causes of people who live an assistance life with higher hurdles, with biggest challenges on the way. And this year we chose a new cause, the one of Debra. Debra is an international onlus, a no-profit association working with people suffering from a rare disease, epidermolysis bullosa, which is a skin condition that causes the skin to break into blister at the slightest touch. This means, of course, living a life with extreme uneasiness, with the risk of getting injured at the slightest touch. So that's also a disease on which the research is still working on trying to find the treatment. And so I would like to involve Mr. Rainer Riedlen, the president of Debra Austria, to bring to us his testament and his wishes for this collaboration between the Tour of the Alps and Debra.
Hello dear cycling friends, my name is Rainer Riedl. I'm a father of a butterfly child and I'm founder of Debra Austria, a patient organization for epidermolysis bullosa, and I'm an enthusiastic cyclist. It's great that the Tour of the Alps has decided to support the butterfly children. Butterfly children live with a skin disease that is not yet curable and has serious consequences. We too have an important mission. We call it Tour to Cure, that is a race to cure this disease. At the Tour of the Alps, the focus is on top physical performance and the mountains. At Debra Austria, the focus is on research on the development of curative therapies. As in competitive sports, it takes passion, knowledge, experience, and perseverance to reach the goal. However, we also need donations. There is hardly any public money available for research towards a cure for rare disease. It would be great if the Tour of the Alps could help to spread the message of the butterfly children to the world and raise funds for research. Thank you very much for this.
Our sheer ambition as Tour of the Alps is to contribute, bringing awareness to Debra and giving a natural contribution to this very important cause. But we are also, getting back to the technical side of things, looking forward to see the riders make a difference on the mountains. Somebody who did it already in the past is Pavel Sivakov, the winner of the Tour of the Alps in 2019, and we asked him to give us a little thought, a little testimonial to what the Tour of the Alps means to him, and also what he thinks about the upcoming edition.
Hey guys, Pavel here. Just wanted to give you a quick shout. Really looking forward to be back at the Tour of the Alps in 2022. Obviously some special memories in 2019, and yeah, as always, looking forward to get back. Cheers. See you soon.
So this is it. We have discovered the competing team to this 2022 edition of the Tour of the Alps. We know the routes, we know the sceneries that expect us from April 18 to 22nd in Trentino, Alto Adige, Südtirol and Tyrol, and we are already looking forward to see this show. So I would like also to thank Lienz for having us here, for their warm welcoming. Franz, veramente non vediamo l'ora di essere qua a Lienz nelle ultime giornate di questo Tour di Alps a goderci uno spettacolo che siamo sicuri sarà eccezionale.
Sì, veramente, noi siamo molto contenti di fare ancora una volta una cooperazione con Tour of the Alps. Noi siamo felici di stare 25 anni in gemellaggio, in amicizia con l'organizzazione del Giro del Trentino, adesso con Tour of the Alps. Io penso sono una grande possibilità di presentare la nostra regione in tutto il mondo. La partenza e l'arrivo a Lienz finalmente sono anche una possibilità per la nostra città di presentare la nostra regione tutto il mondo insieme con un spettacolo in ciclismo.
So thank you, Franz, thank you, Lienz, and since we are closing and say goodbye to all of you to the days of the Tour of the Alps, we would like to conclude with a short video, a short emotional message about what the Euregio, what this kind of collaboration is really all about. Because united we are stronger, and possibly even more so at this point in this history. Thank you, and see you in April at the Tour of the Alps.
Mille grazie a tutti voi, ci vediamo presto a Lienz. Herzlich willkommen.